Now, as we all know, feminists and SJWs tend not to mix well with, history and historical facts and stuff like that. Here's a good example of what I mean. A feminist reviews Dunkirk and says exactly what you'd expect. What good is a beach movie without girls? Marie Claire wants to know. Well, it depends on what kind of beach movie, War tend to be pretty good. But, that's just me. I like war movies because, well, I'm a guy. That sort of thing. It was sophomore year of college when absurd feminists burst into our English department seminar room with steam puffing out her ears. Are there any women in this book? She demanded to no one in particular, slamming a paperback on the table. I happened to be nearest to her blast zone of accusation, so I replied, not really. The book in question was Dispatches, Michael Herr's account of life among infantry grunts in Vietnam. Then I cannot get into it, she exclaimed. Okay, unless it's a reading assignment, don't be a bitch about it. If it's not an assignment, don't read it. But of course, feminists. In a moment of clarity, I understood what the two main imperatives of higher education were to absurd feminists and to so many of her peers. First, instead of broadening her horizons and taking her outside herself to discover the world, she demanded the educators filter all knowledge through her own experience to make it relatable to her. Second, all learning was to be valued in proportion to how effectively it could be made into a cudgel in the identity politics war. Dispatches, with its virtually all-male cast, represented a pernicious advance for the patriarchy, even if it was about the agonies suffered by men. And it's amazing. Feminists don't tend to realize, women weren't allowed in the military until rather recently, so yeah, they tended not to be overseas in Vietnam unless they were nurses. But don't let facts get in the way. Fast forward a few years and another absurd feminist is here to tell us what's wrong with Dunkirk. It's about men. Why couldn't it have been about women? No, really, Marie Claire's reviewer wants to know. Dunkirk felt like an excuse for men to celebrate maleness, which apparently they don't get to do enough. Fine, great, go forth, but if director Christopher Nolan's entire purpose is breaking the established war movie mold and doing something different, why not make a movie about women in World War II? Or because I know that will elicit cries of, ugh, not everything has to be about feminism, ugh. How about any other marginalized group? These stories shouldn't be relegated to indie films and Oscar season. It's up to giant powerhouse directors like Nolan to tell them, which is why Dunkirk feels so basic. Well, women in World War II on the Allies side were, back home. The whole Rosie the Riveter thing? Yeah, that's because the factory jobs the men left to go fight the war had to be filled by somebody, so ladies stepped up and took over for a while. Basic, you may or may not know, is the current term of derision used by young women and gay men to indicate feeble, unimaginative taste. Oh, you're wearing a Ralph Lauren polo shirt? You're so basic. I hate society. It seems unlikely that Marie Claire's reviewer, Mahara Bonner, has before her an exceptionally bright career of writing about film. As for a career writing about feminism, though, the sky for Bonner is the limit. Her essay could plausibly have appeared on any number of bristling feminist sites. What is her reasoning except feminism taken to its logical extreme? Feminists often declare to the world that they stand merely for an entirely reasonable proposition, say that women's lives are as important as men's. Who would dispute that? Yet feminist writing usually continues far past this point into a need to prove women and men have been equally important in every context, even in history. If women turn out to be mostly irrelevant to an incident, then it is the moral duty of socially conscious creative artists to ignore the matter. They should retrain their sights on something that will give absurd feminists something they can relate to, something that will advance the cause of feminism in general. Because everything is sexist. Basically, to quote Anita Sarkeesian, everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic. Because Reasons. Feminists have a habit of obsessively dividing the world into teams, us and them. Ideas and even facts get considered in the light of whether they are good for Team Woman or not. Instead of seeing men and women as close collaborators in the human project, feminists often suppose that the sexes are rivals, opponents. Bonner looks at Dunkirk and is irritated that men like the film. She sees it as a celebration of manly courage and bravado, or at least manly endurance and grit, and this repulses her. Feminism means constant maintenance of an imaginary set of scales, and she fears Dunkirk adds weight to the masculine side, tipping the culture away from women. If Dunkirk, quote, Christopher Nolan's new directorial gift to men, she calls it, shows men at their best, it must therefore be bad for women. Because, of course, everything that is war is bad for women. Everything that has a male in it is bad for women because the patriarchy, because reasons, because imagination. Feminists need to realize not everything is sexist, not everything is problematic, not everything is racist nor homophobic. The past is the past. Telling stories about what happened in the past is not a problem. It is not sexist when you are giving the facts of what happened. Like the fact that there were no females on the front lines during World War I or II. That's not sexist. That's historical. They need to get their heads out of their asses and realize we're not being sexist. We're just telling what actually happened the way it was. We were being historically accurate. But of course, history and accuracy, that doesn't really matter to feminists because sexism. The reason we can't have a Dunkirk that's about women and marginalized people is because there weren't a lot of them on the beach in June 1940. The only Dunkirk that would satisfy Bonner would be a Dunkirk that simply didn't exist. Can't men just shut up about all the stuff men have done? Their sense of history is so basic. So, yeah. Because history is sexist. Well, I mean, to a point, yeah, history is sexist. But telling the stories of what happened in history isn't. Because we're not doing it. We are just telling the stories of what happened. And those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So, shut up, learn from history, and don't repeat it. But I mean, I know that's scary because, the patriarchy and all that crap. But maybe expand your horizons a little bit. Then you'll learn and see not everything is sexist. I know it's scary. Give it a try. I'm sure you'll learn something incredible. I promise. Holy crap, you've made it through to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe down below. Be sure to leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And now, roll the outro.